about this monument. I am looking forward to seeing the potential, what it's going to look like. I know you've been through a lot of work on that. And when we have time, we'll talk about why it's taken 30 years, especially in the city of Berkeley. You know, people think of Berkeley as free speech and very cool, and, you know, things are just, you know, it's a great place to be. Well, it's some of that, but the bureaucracy has been holding us back. So thank you, Marlene Watson and Lee Sprague, so much. Send me the information again online. I will tell people how, and they can also, can they send their comments in writing to the city of Berkeley?
Yes, they can.
Okay. Well, we will post that on our Facebook page, and this again will repeat at 1 o'clock. So thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Bye-bye, Lee. All right, thank you. We wanted to really appreciate that Marlene and Lee were able to join us by phone from Berkeley. This was came about at the last minute because I thought it was very important. You know, we do a lot of stories and programs about things that are happening not that close to us here in Mendocino County, but this is Berkeley, and this is a monument to all our people. Sounds pretty cool to me. So it's going to take a while. All right, let me take a breath. Let's start again. Now we're going to switch to talking, instead of a monument, about films. And over the last, oh my gosh, I don't know how many years, we have a wonderful assortment of filmmakers. We have film festivals, native film festivals all over the place now. And one of the film festivals that will begin in Palm Springs today is called the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival. And often it's just simply referred to as AmDocs'. And we have two filmmakers this morning. So this is going to, the AmDocs', American Documentary Animation Film Festival in Palm Springs, starts today, March 30th, and goes through April 3rd. So first up, we are going to be talking with Josephine Bono, or Bono? Bono, okay. And you should introduce yourself too. I don't know your name. Sir? Hello.
Yes, I'm Ray Naranjo.
Hey, Ray. Thank you. I do know your name. Hey, Ray. There's a lot of Naranjos in this area, not in the Bay Area. Are you from? Well, we'll talk about you guys in just a moment. So they've made this film. It sounds delicious. Taste of the Indigenous. So we're going to start with Josephine. Why did you decide to make a film about native foods?
Well, it actually, the proposition came to me. I was working on a feature film in New York City, and there was a PA who had indigenous roots in Panama. His father had indigenous roots in Panama, and he knew that I had a photography background. His father was a very famous photographer. And after we wrapped that film, he approached me and said, I have a pitch for you. And he said, how about we do a photography show on indigenous food? And I'll be your assistant. And he said, I know all about the lighting. I've assisted my father for many years. And then he also showed me a TED Talk by Sean Sherman. And that TED Talk, as soon as I watched that TED Talk, I said, oh, we're not going to do a photography show. We're going to do a short documentary. And I just saw the entire film kind of play before my eyes pretty instantaneously. And then we just hit the ground running. We went on to research to find which indigenous chefs we were going to interview. And there were very few restaurants. It was during COVID, but there's very few restaurants. That's what you realize through the research, is that there aren't many indigenous restaurants, and there's very few and far in between. And the few that were available on the East Coast were in museums, and those museums were closed because of COVID. So the first one that was up that we found was Chef Sherry Pocknett, who then opened up her own small restaurant called the Sly Fox Den 2, and that's in Charlestown, Rhode Island. She was unable to join us today. She may pop in. I know she's not feeling so great. She's a little sick right now, but she's getting better. So her restaurant was I think it's her uncle had the first and only restaurant with Native American food on the East Coast for many years. So
Wow.
she also inherited all of this restaurateur. So she was really, one of the very few that I was able to go and interview and have her filmed. We were so, obviously, needless to say, fortunate that Chef Sherry Pachna and Chef Ray Naranjo shared their stories with us. I knew that was very special. So we were really excited. We already knew once we had their consent, we were really excited to get on and interview them. So it is a really fun. And then we went to New Mexico. We found Ray. Chef Ray is an incredible chef. He was working at the time at the Cultural Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And now he has his own business, which I'll let him give you it's incredible food. I was very lucky to actually taste his food when I went down for the Albuquerque Film Festival. And so I'll let him talk about his food, but I was blown away by the flavors and the depth. It was, to say soul food is an understatement. I knew it was going to be good, but it was mind-blowing.
Yeah, I love that Southwest soul food. And before we go to you, Ray, I can't help but think is it Northeastern food that we're going to be talking about clams and quahogs and corn and other kinds of wonderful, wonderful foods. You're talking about two things that have sort of risen to the surface within Native America in terms of visibility is Native films by Native people. The cultures that are represented, the breadth and depth of cultures, but food has become a big deal. In Oakland, we have a Crystal Wapipa's restaurant as well. So Chef Naranjo, I love every time I go to Albuquerque, I go to the All Indian Pueblo Council and eat. And maybe I've eaten there when you were the chef. Just thank you so much. And I was talking, you guys know Gary Farmer, the actor. Anyway, I was talking to him yesterday. I think we did a show with him. And he lives in Santa Fe. So he said after the show, he was going out after those green chilies. So we talk about Native food here. Not often enough, but we sure love that. I said green chili. You should see Ray's just this huge smile popped up. Good morning, Ray.
Thank you for having me.
Go ahead. Tell us about your role in this film.
Okay, so it was a great opportunity to give our perspective on just where Native Americans are in terms of food sovereignty. And
food sovereignty and he's I like that. Well, what does this food sovereignty mean? We've got a lot of non-Indigenous people listening to us. By the way, we're also on are we on YouTube Live, ma'am? I think we're also on YouTube Live. So talk about this in food sovereignty. What does that mean?
Well, like was stated before, there's not a lot of Native American restaurants out there, so it's hard for us to have an identity through our food, which is also important, as food is usually the medium that you meet people first through. You communicate through cultures first by exchanging a dish, exchanging a meal with somebody. So it's kind of almost recreating this identity in a newer context, as our food systems were very different and very much basic and more for survival. But now we're in a time where we get to be creative and we get to show food for its potential as art, as well as expressing ourselves and giving a taste of where we're from.
Well, why that sounds like a perfect introduction to sharing a trailer about your movie. Why don't we watch that? It's called Taste of the Indigenous, and we're going to share that with our YouTube audience as well. So, and Leanne Lindsay is driving in the background. So Leanne, take it away. Thank you.
As a Native American person, you're taught that the extent of your culinary existence is fry bread, and that's as far as you're going to take it. But if you tell a young culinarian that their ingredients inspired world cuisine, then it changes their perspective, and it makes them look at the world differently.
I didn't realize what an honor it is to be Native, Indigenous, until I got older.
My goal is to get it recognized in a professional culinary setting. It allows us to be prideful, once again, as a prideful people, instead of always, I guess, pushed down and looked at as a third world country, and that exists right in our own country.
Now I'm gonna skin them. That is called the sheen. And if you can get the sheen off, you're pretty good at skinning.
As you grow older, you realize the disconnection between your old life ways and the life ways that you're in now. We're missing out on this whole other healthy way and connection to the earth.
Ray, my mouth is watering. You know, you guys looking at this this trailer, Josephine, it's just wonderful to see the vistas. So those of you in the radio audience who are not watching us live on YouTube, you would have seen some beautiful vistas from New Mexico, including that scene from Shiprock, and also looking at the East Coast and at Chef Sherry skinning a big fish. I don't know what that was, but and tomatoes and potatoes. There's this long history of stories of, you know, Indians introducing tomatoes to the settlers, and the Europeans thought they were poisonous, so they wouldn't eat them. And so, as a native storyteller said once, so finally someone ate one and didn't die. So they kept eating them. And of course, the potatoes. We see purple potatoes in our stores now. And a lot of that thanks to our, you know, generations back in Central and South America. So this looks, and I mean, it should come with a serving of something with it when you're watching the film.
One tasting from each chef.
Exactly. That would be great. Do we get recipes?
That's for the series.
The series. Well, you know, that also reminds me, Loretta Barrett Oden had a series, if you remember, on many years ago, and I just forgot the name of it, of her series, and she's a friend of mine, but that was one of the first Native chefs that ever had a series on PBS. And I'm sorry, Loretta, I can't remember the name of the series, but you know, you're right. We do need a series, and a cooking series on the cooking channel would be fun. How about you, Chef Naranjo? Would you like to be on the food channel?
Oh, you know, that'd be excellent. Any chance to show off what Native Americans are doing nowadays is good.
What's one of your, off the top of your head, your favorite recipes to cook? Favorite food?
You know, the dish actually featured in that film there is going to be featured in another magazine, edible magazine. And it's interesting because we would have never eaten a steak like that pre-contact. It would have been maybe 20% meat to 80% plant-based diet. So these are the types of things that we could do now that probably would have never happened.
I'm glad you brought that up, because those of you, again, who couldn't see the trailer and seeing all this food being roasted and, just bushels of fresh tomatoes, but that big piece of beef, that took up the whole screen. So I'm sure.
Yes, that was a tomahawk bison steak is what that was.
Bison steak. So all the meat eaters out there, I'm sure, were thinking, wow, I want that. Bison. Bison is really good when you can get it. We have a little celebration here at the station, or we used to have them pretty regularly, and I'd always go out and get bison and make chili for people. So a little bit of both of cultures. Josephine, what did you have a favorite region for food that you enjoy tasting?
Well, I will say I wasn't very familiar with the Native American dishes, even though when I went to college at Fordham University, one of my roommates, Becky Gibson, she is from the Onondaga Nation, and we are still very close. And she did introduce me to some things, but there was a lot that I didn't know. So I was learning as I was going. When I first went to Sherry's restaurant, she did a incredible smoked salmon dish. And I've had smoked salmon before, but she had the salmon steak smoked on top of these layers of mushrooms. It was incredible. The textures and the flavors, it was just something I've never had before. When I went down to Ray's restaurant, we had these incredible dishes that I really just had no experience, even though I did grow up in this country. I do come from immigrant parents who have their own cuisine, but this was just something I never knew about. So I thought, if I don't know about it, most people don't know about it. And there seemed to have been, and that was one of the messages in the Sean Sherman TED Talk, is spreading the information and educating people. Which then led me, after doing this short documentary, wanting to do a series and wanting to have Chef Sherry and Chef Ray go around as the hosts, taking turns and visiting different tribes, a chef from each tribe, and doing an episode on each tribe.
Sean Spruce is located where? Is he the one from Minneapolis?
Yes.
Okay.
He was actually unavailable at the time because he was opening up his restaurant. We were going to film him, but it was a little bit too much. He was literally opening at the time of our filming. But he is aware and he is involved. He was the inspiration. I did note that at the end of the film that he did inspire the film.
It's great.
Yeah.
Ray, we didn't mention the name of your restaurant and where it is.
So we're called Manko. We're actually a food truck, and we're trying to develop that into a brick and mortar. Manko is a Tewa word that means come and eat in our Tewa language.
Wow, a food truck. I love that idea. I'm sure a restaurant would be a lot easier, but that's very cool. I don't know of any native food trucks, except when we went to up in Connecticut, Scamitson, there used to be this gigantic, biggest powwow that I'd ever been in, and there were all kinds of native food vendors in trucks. That was very cool. So you guys, where are we going to see your film soon?
Well, it's actually tomorrow at the AmDocs' Film Festival. It's playing at 1:30 at the Camelot Theater. If anybody in the area would love to check it out, it would be wonderful. It's an incredible film festival. There's also it's like a food block. They have a short film block of all different foods. So it's very interesting. I'm excited to see the other films as well. And that is our it's literally tomorrow 1:30. So we have something coming up quickly.
Tomorrow at 1:30. This is in Palm Springs, right? At the AmDocs', as Josephine was calling it, but that's the American Documentary Film Festival, something like that, in Palm Springs, and it goes until April 3rd, I believe. So it's only 3 days then, something like that. Yeah. Wow. So you got to hurry, go down there and learn about all of these great chefs, some history about, native foods. I think most people, think of corn, beans, and squash, don't they? Aren't those called the Three Sisters?
We do talk about the three sisters in the film. Sherry really goes into a beautiful monologue about the history of the Three Sisters rice. And I think that's actually one of the most heartfelt things that happened during the filming. I wasn't expecting the stories tied to the dishes. And so the film pretty much made itself, I was just there, but it was a documentary, so it was obviously not scripted, but I could never predict the kind of stories that came out of the dishes and the history and how tied it is to the earth and to the animals. It's incredible. I did cry after each interview. Ray, I never told you that, but after I interviewed you, they had sunglasses on, you couldn't tell. But both times it was really, incredible stories.
Wow. It sounds wonderful. And it is, I would agree with you. The specialness of when you're with your people or other people's, eating that food. I told a story the other day about visiting some people up in Seneca, and I'm Muskogee, so we're not related except that we all ate white corn, this flint corn. It's hard. And so when I mentioned that to the person I was talking with in Seneca, so he brought me this bag of 3 pounds of white flint corn dried. So I brought it home. And you need ash to soften it. It's called nixtamalization. How our Indians figured that out, but that's not their word. But I don't know. I always guess some flakes from a volcano fell into the pot of corn or something, and it made it different, and that releases all of the wonderful vitamins from it. So anyway, I did that. I made it. 3 pounds of dried corn is a lot of corn. It's a whole lot of corn. But back home, we call it sofki. I think white people call it hominy, is similar to that. So did you do anything on any of the white corn? Or is that for for the series?
That we would definitely want to do for the series. I know Chef Ray talked a lot about the blue corn.
Oh,
and when I was in Albuquerque, I got to meet Chef Ray's mother, Marian Naranjo, who took me to the reservation where they made the holy bread. And that was, I think, like you are saying, a combination of that, but it was the blue corn with something else that really kept it, you could eat it, it doesn't ever go bad or spoil. So it was incredible. And the flavor was delicious. It was just this delicate, incredible flavor of this. It was almost like a corn, like the corn was rolled up, but even the process, it was so special. That was unable to be recorded. That was only, you could only take it with you. So I took that with me. It was really special.
Do you have a mortar and pestle so you can grind your own corns? And
I don't, but that was there.
Yeah, I saw a mocajete in the film there. That's there is something so special. Chef Naranjo, tell us a little bit about the blue corn. We have a few more minutes before we're going to move to our next film.
Okay, so the blue corn is very special to the area. It's part of a lot of mythological stories or creation stories based off of the two corn mothers. One's white and one's blue. It also marks the direction of north. Sorry, let me say that again. It marks the direction of north, and that's where. So when I use it in terms of directions and corn colors and associations, I use flavors from the north to combine with the blue corn, and a lot of my cuisine is based off of those directions.
Can you give us a sample? Just a sample of when you said something from the north? What would that be?
Okay, so I would take from our table perspective, I would take the blue corn that represents the north. Then I would go to the Great Lakes region. I would take wild rice, cranberries, maybe some mushrooms, and maybe some walleye, and create a dish that represents the Native American indigenous flavor from the north.
Wow, you really are making my mouth water here. We're gonna have to get together and come to your
Not to mention the maple syrup. Sorry.
Oh yeah, maple syrup, a whole nother one. Oh my gosh, there's so many things, and in every region of the country here, and out here there's a lot of seaweed. We're in the land of pomos. We have three rancherias nearby. We have a small one, Kashaya. It's on top of a hill. It's the 40 acres. We have that's to the south of us. To the north of us, we have the Point Arena, Manchester. It's a much larger, several hundred acres. And so that's the main tribes that are here. And we also have Coyote Valley Band, who are going to be on the show soon. Talking about their trying to stop the forest from being cut. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that, there's all these different types of foods. And so seaweed is one of the number one things here of the Pomos, along with the fish, the salmon out here. So anyway, you guys, I think I'm going to have to move on in a couple of minutes. Josephine, what else do you want to say?
Well, I do want to go again back into the series, because we are looking to really push that forward. We are applying for funding. We're applying for grants, and we are serious about putting that show on the road, so to speak, and having Chef Ray host Chef Sherry, who can join us today, but I know she was excited to be a part of that. In our treatment, we already have about 8 different chefs lined up for different episodes, and we are looking for the next steps for the showrunner, basically. So we're ready.
Oh my goodness, I can just see now the chef contest, and having the food trucks and the restaurateurs and everybody, and have, here's the 6 ingredients. See what you can do with these. It would be wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing your film, and good luck at AmDocs'. Oh, but I do want people to know, though, that this film has won awards every the Cannes Film Festival, and I can't remember all the places, but congratulations on that. I think that is well deserved, and it's really nice to see have something contemporary, something fun, and the reality of our wonderful foods, and Chef, what you're doing with it as well. So we'll have to talk again sometime. I'd love to do that, and let's get that series going, whatever it's going to be. And thank you guys so much, Josephine Bono and our Chef Naranjo. I can't remember Chef Ray Naranjo, and who definitely describes himself having roots from both the ancient Puebloans of the Southwest and the 3 fire tribes of the Great Lakes. So no wonder you got that going on there. Thank you guys so much, and just let your friends know this repeats at 1:00. It'll be on our SoundCloud on KGUA, and then of course we're doing this live on YouTube, so that'll be there for a while too. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet.
Thank you as well.
All right, Chef. Thank you. All right. Well, that's part 1 of Peggy's Place this morning. We are zooming around this morning, talking about native films and AmDocs shorts. And the first one, of course, was about food, Josephine Bono and Chef Ray Naranjo. And now we're going to take a short breath. Oh, and a big shout out to Chef Sherry Pocknett, who wasn't able to join us from the Northeast. And that was so great to have that visit. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk to Evan Marie Petit. Is that correct?
It's Petit.
Petit. It is Petit. Well, you look very petite. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Can you move closer to your mic or turn your mic up? Just a reminder, folks, you're listening to Peggy's Place this morning on KGUA in Gualala, and that's Northern California. So today we're talking about, first we talked about documentaries about native foods that has left our mouths watering and craving blue corn and everything else. And now we're going to move to a different type of a film. And the producer, director of this film is Evan Marie Petit. And I loved going to your website where you started your introduction to yourself with a poem. You know, and you don't see that very often. You wouldn't happen to have a copy of the poem in front of you, would you?
Oh, I'm not sure which poem you're speaking of.
I am a visual storyteller. It's not a poem, but it reads like a poem.
Oh, you know what? I think you're looking on my other website. So yeah, that's for my event work. But I don't know if you have my documentary and filmmaking website. But I can give you an intro of who I am.
Yes, please do that. I'm sorry. I do have you are a documentary photographer and filmmakers, stories that support environmental, cultural, and indigenous rights and movements. And are you indigenous, Evan?
Yes, my ancestry on my matriarchal side is from the Georgia Band of Eastern Cherokee. Yeah, we're from that territory. I was born and raised there in a little town called Hickory Flat, which is in Cherokee County in North Georgia. And I also have European lineage as well. So I'm a mixed person.
Well, aren't we all? Bernadette, is that you there? Looks like we've been joined by Bernadette Smith. Anyway, Evan, I'm Muskogee, but our roots are from Georgia, you know, where, as you know, Jackson moved us from Georgia and we had to walk on what's known as the Trail of Tears, although it's known as Cherokee Trail of Tears. There were a lot of tribes there. So Miss Bernadette, is that you?
Yes, this is me. Hi, Peggy.
Hey, how are you? Wow, it's
Doing
good.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, you are. So so Evan, tell us about the film that you want to talk about right now.
Sure. So POMO Land Back, A Prayer from the Forest was also produced with Coyote Valley Band of Pomo, particularly
Great.
Michael Hunter. He is our executive producer. Also, my partner, Lewis Fox, was also the other producer of the film. And it was really a collaboration with Michael when he, told me that there was going to be these walks happening. And then, of course, this intertribal ceremony that was happening in Jackson Demonstration Forest. It felt really clear that that was a very legacy building moment. It felt pretty historical to have all the Native folks, the different bands of Pomo coming back to the forest from all over Mendocino County to hold ceremony. And it was really significant because it was held in a clear cut in Jackson Demonstration Forest. And it felt like it was a really big reclaiming of just culture and ceremony and of the forest where these multiple tribes, their ancestry comes from. And so I felt a deep call to say, can we document this? Can we document and share this with the world to get the message out of what is going on in Jackson Demonstration Forest and really create a piece that honors the native legacy of this reclaiming of what's happening in the name of Indigenous folks coming together to call for co-management and sovereignty over how our forests are managed in California. And so that's how it came about. And of course, Michael loved the idea and gave us the permission to film that ceremony. And so the film is just like a little visceral poetic document of that ceremony. And of course, Bernadette was there. She's a big part of the film of holding the container of the ceremony with her song. And yeah, I really wanted to give people, non-Native folks a feeling of what it's like to be in ceremony. I really feel like prayer-led movements and our future for our environment really is led by Indigenous folks doing it in a good way, and wanted to drop people into what it feels like to be in ceremony, so it could speak to their hearts and they could feel included and really want to take action on behalf of these issues. well.
Wow, that's a very important concept. I'm kind of two minds of this, though. And Bernadette, you're becoming a film star, Bernadette, the second film you're in. And in fact, I was talking to another Native friend just yesterday about ceremony and talking about ceremony and how, there's only so much we can talk about from tribe to tribe that we can do and share publicly. But Evan, as you said, that feeling that comes from participating in a ceremony, whether it's your own people or reclaiming a ceremony, as so many tribes have to do, or people who have them. Bernadette, do you want to address that at all about this, both sides of this, the sharing of ceremonies, but the importance of experiencing them?
Yeah, so you hear, non-Native people hear mostly about Native practices and our ceremonies and can only imagine what those are, right? They have an idea, maybe some are influenced by what they've seen in a movie, like many in America, that's what their knowledge as far as it goes. So being able to experience that even through film or through recordings, it's a beautiful thing. And it is giving an opportunity for non-Native allies to kind of connect in that way, get a sense of what we're doing. I'm hoping that even through hearing song, they could be able to experience or feel something like that and kind of understand what we mean when we say we have a spiritual connection here. It's more than the physical. It's more than what we see in the land that we touch physically, but there's some connection that runs deeper. So really capturing that feeling and that spirit and being able to have it seen throughout the world, and felt throughout the world is something that's really important. And, we welcome any kind of representation that wants to be shared, and filmmakers and people who come from a good place of intention that want to help us spread that word and help us get our message across. And we really appreciate the work that you did. Well, it's beautiful.
So we're just listening to the voice of Bernadette Smith, who is one of our local POMO people here from Point Arena, Manchester tribe. And she's been doing a lot of work as she has grown into the woman she is and being involved in so many spiritual activities. And we're all very proud of Bernadette around here. You know what? I think it's time that we play the trailer for POMO Land Back. Why don't we do that? And we'll come back and talk with Evan and Bernadette some more. I'm really enjoying this, meeting all of you and watching your films. Here we go.
If tribes aren't involved in the decision making, it never ends up good.
Today we're here for Mother Earth. Today we're here for the plant nation and the trees. Today we're here to cry out and to sing our songs and to pray.
All we're asking for is a moratorium on logging in the Jackson Demonstration State Forest until the tribes can sit with the agencies to determine what is right.
Wow, that was short and very powerful. And it is always fun to see some faces of people from the community who are, as you were saying, Bernadette, it's so important to carry that on. And Evan, thank you for getting the permission to share what you're able to share, the wonderful twirling pomo dancers and the clacker sticks and all of that. But this is something that's happening I don't know, but what is it, 40 miles from Gualala or Point Arena, something like that, the Jackson Demonstration Force. It's not that far. So who wants to tell us about what's going on there? I mean, we're talking about redwoods there, huge forest.
Yeah, so I can chime in there. So basically, a little history on the Jackson State Forest. It's one of the largest forests owned by Cal and owned by the state. So it's kind of what we call a public land. historically it was used and set aside for activities and outdoor, just the purpose of being in the redwoods, hiking. Everybody's grown to love it for what it's been as far as that. But more currently, CAL FIRE has given permission for forest deforestation to be happening there, like taking down the trees. And basically, the activists that have been involved, the non-native allies that have been protesting and doing activism against it, have been confronting and forcing CAL FIRE to suspend timber harvest planning or moving forward with any timber harvest plan, which was really good. That was part of it. That was the first thing they did. They kind of halted that. And moving forward, they had some petitions going around. They wanted people to just pretty much stop them permanently and make them kind of see that the carbon sequestration, that process of capturing and storing atmospheric carbon dioxide is so important in that forest because the trees are over 100 years old. Although they're second growth trees, they are still over 100 and store so much of that carbon there. So just that alone, I think that with the environmentalists have been like a strong reason and why they wanted to keep that from happening. But then we come in tribally and know that because it's such a large area, the amount of cultural sites that are there, gathering sites, historical sites for our people within that 500 acres is just, you know, it's very important to be able to protect those sites. It's very important for us to be able to go there and not just be with the trees, but, you know, have ceremony there, just have access. Just being able to go there and them still be there for our grandchildren to be able to go and touch them and be with them like our grandmothers were. It's so vitally important to us as a people. And I think that's where we were able to find that common ground with our non-native allies and within our tribal community is we both want to protect the forests. So we both came together and they were able to do some negotiations, not exactly where they want to be yet, but the process and the fight hasn't stopped. And we did have a few 6 elders get arrested out in Sacramento when they were going and sitting in front and kind of holding it down there, demanding answers from Crowfoot and wanting to know, like, what's he going to do? You know, how is he going to help? So yeah, the fight's been continuing and it continues still today. And we were just really happy that we had so many people coming out and so many people standing with us, sharing in our struggle and really wanting to help. And really that intention, like I said, it's so pure from both sides. And it's not just a native issue. This is a human issue. This is about climate change. This is about protecting ourselves as a people globally. So, yeah.
So, you just said so many things, and also watching you and your emotions as you were talking about this. And I want to go back to that for a second. The information is absolutely vital, and gathering allies is so important to Native people because we're small. Most of our tribes are fairly small. Even the largest tribes are fairly small considering the population. But Bernadette, at one point you were talking about the event and the feeling, and I watched your face change and your eyes change. And what was going on with you then when you were remembering that?
So I would say just seeing, because there's been times when, and it's unfortunate that there's not many of our Native community that comes out to those types of events. More so traditionally now, that type of tree hugging and that mentality has been what we might, well, my generation might look at as what they would say hippie or something like that, you know. But things are changing. And that day in particular, we had so many Native people coming out and gathering and learning about what we're doing out there, why we're there. And that really had, you know, that impacted me. That made me feel hopeful. So just thinking back on that day and seeing the dancing happening there, all the Native faces that were there, not just non-Native people, because a lot of times that's unfortunately, not unfortunately, that's the wrong word, but sometimes that's the majority of the people who are there are non-Native allies who we love And we, we always encourage more. But that day in particular, we did have a larger attendance of Native people, a Native presence there. And that's all I ever hope for, is for our people to kind of come out and step foot here, see what we're talking about, because then you'll understand just by being there, seeing those clear cutting acres and seeing all those dead trees. It really does something to you as a Native person. It really pulls at you. And for them to be able to get that many people out there, that was a beautiful thing. And I brought a group of young kids from my tribe and let them see, and it really opens their eyes, So, and that's another reason why putting this little film out, the short film out about it, was really important, because it allows for more people to see that. And hopefully, like Evan said, like they can feel something through the film, even though they might not have the opportunity to come out.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernadette. Evan, let's go back to the film. And I just reminded you and I met along with Leanne Lindsay at the Mendocino Film Festival last year, I bet, for a little bit. And, that's, you meet so many people, and when, especially, I mean, you're at a big event like that. Is your film going to be shown in Mendocino this year?
It's not. There was a little bit of a part of me that was like, it needs a replay, because a lot of the community at the event last year couldn't get in. It was in the town hall, and there was a line around the building, and a lot of the locals didn't get in, and they really want to, and especially like a lot of the Native folks, still haven't seen it, that are part of the Pomo tribe. And so I was feeling a calling to write to them and see if they wanted to do a part 2 replay, but I haven't done that yet.
When I've never been to AmDocs', and I haven't been to that many film festivals, and having my a cohort here, Leanne Lindsay, who's very much into films and making her own, but has gotten me more involved in going to a lot of these film festivals. And then this year, I actually am part of a film that's being shown, not me personally, but I'm part of the process. And that's has taken me to film festivals. And I have to say, it's such a wonderful experience to be able to sit there and experience the film with other people. And so Evan, I want to go back to that. How did you get into filmmaking? Why did you decide to choose this? It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's a lot of work that people don't see behind the scenes, especially, it's amazing getting to be in the field and drop in with communities and beautiful stories and culture. That's really what drives me. But, the hard work is the sitting on the computer editing that nobody sees. So thank you for acknowledging that. So I have been a visual storyteller for a long while now, through my documentary photography. And so this is my first film, actually. And my partner, Louis Fox, is a longtime filmmaker and director that we have been producing a feature film together for the past 3 years. But when this opportunity came about, it was just, really a calling to document and help share this story of what's going on. So I would say the Pomo Land Back film, as well as my other film, are really how I got into filmmaking. I feel like as a documentarian, photography is beautiful, but being able to add songs and prayers and, the movement and dance into a piece is just a whole different world that I love so much. So that's a little bit.
Well, we'll have a chance someday to talk more. So your film is showing this weekend at the American Documentary Film Festival, known as AmDocs' in Palm Springs. When is it showing for those who might be going down there?
I have to look up the date again. I'm actually not there. I wasn't able to attend. And so I actually don't have the date and time of what day it is of the film festival. Sorry, that's bad representation, but
it happens. And, it's not surprising. I mean, filmmakers, how many festivals has this been in so far?
So it's been in a handful of festivals. That was really like the whole goal was to get this message out to a wide audience, and that was really the intention of putting it in film festivals. So it's been in it's been in the Red Nation Film Festival, which is an all like our country's only all native film festival, besides the American Indian Film Festival, which it was also in. It was in the Mill Valley Film Festival, Mendocino, AmDocs', and then it's in a little offshoot Women in Film, the Red Nation Film Festival coming up as well. So there's a handful.
Well, that's a good handful. It's in a lot of very good places.
Yes.
Yeah. So Bernadette, we just have a minute left here. What do you think is the importance of having these films out for?
Well, spreading knowledge, spreading awareness, like that's what they're made for, you know, just getting the message out there, letting them know, because you never know who it's going to reach. It might resonate with somebody that it needs to. And that's where we just say, creator can take it from here. You know, we are just his vessels, his tools, and we all contribute our gifts to that. And we just kind of let him move it about how he needs to, you know. So it's important that we create and have that space and time together so that can happen. And then, like I always say, I just let him take it from there, you know.
Well, we are out of time, ladies. I'm sorry, but I really appreciate you being here. And Bernadette, it was a nice surprise to see your face popping up there. Evan Marie Petit, the director and producer of this film that is showing at AmDocs'. What's the name again for us?
POMO Land Back, A Prayer from the Forest.
I love that name, POMO Land Back, A Prayer from the Forest. And it's showing at AmDocs' in Palm Springs, and we'll look for it in other places. Thank you all for listening to Peggy's Place this morning. It just has zoomed along so quickly. And I thank you all. We got to go, but we're not done with Indians. We're going to Native America Calling down in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So bye, everybody, and thank you for making it a great show.
Thank you.